very important part of the show. This, it's shoved in the papers. You got to make sure that they're nicely aligned. That you can't see any paper out of place, so it just looks totally ruins the professional feel of this show. As you can see, very very professional with this one light up there and with a MacBook that has paper on the front. Very very professional show this is. Very. Roll it. Hey, I'm Kev Kerr, Mr. Kerr, and welcome to Power Oversteer, the Wheel Motorsport show on the Elusive Kev channel. And in today's show, we are going to preview the fourth round of the 2013 FIA Formula 1 World Championship in Bahrain at the Sakir circuit. And it's a very controversial race, and it remains controversial this year. I've already seen on the BBC website MPs again calling for the race to be abandoned, for teams not to go there, and it's going to be an issue that's going to roll on for a few years, it seems, about this race. But it seems like, again, just like last year, the show will go on, and so I can preview it. And going into this race, we've got Sebastian Vettel in the lead with 52 points in the driver's stand. You've got Kimi Räikkönen second with 49, and Alonso third, jumping up after his win in China with 43. Hamilton in fourth with 40 points, and Massa rounds up the top five with 30 points for Ferrari. Mark Webber is sixth after a dreadful weekend in China with 26 points. Nico Rosberg only has 12 points in seventh, along with Jenson Button in joint seventh with 12 points. Roman Grosjean is ninth with 11 points, and rounding out the top 10 is Paul di Resta with 8 points, with Daniel Ricciardo fresh off his best finish in F1 in China in joint 11th with Adrian Sutil. Nico Hulkenberg is 13th with 5 points. Sergio Perez down in 14th with only 2 points in his McLaren, and John Eric Vergne is last of the point scorers with 1 point in 15th for Toro Rosso. No points for Williams so far, or the newer teams, or for Esteban Gutierrez in the Sauber. In the team standings, we do have Red Bull in the lead with 78 points, 5 points ahead of Ferrari after their great weekend in China. Lotus are third with 60 points, Mercedes fourth with 52, McLaren and Force India are joint fifth with 14, Toro Rosso are seventh with 7, and Sauber are 8th with 5 points, with Williams 9th, Marussia 10th, and Caterham in 11th. So that is the state of play going into the weekend, and let's firstly look at some track facts. So some track facts, and the Bahrain Grand Prix is held at the Bahrain International Circuit in Sakir. I apologise, I said that wrong. And it was started to be built in 2002. It was completed by its first race held there on the 1st of April 2004. And the F1 race has been held there 8 times, with of course the cancellation in 2011. And there's been controversy about this race ever since, with human rights, protest about the alleged human rights breaches done by the ruling body there, and how the F1 race is basically used to promote the country, or how the race has been used to promote that country, and how the government used that promote that race. And again this year there's been no protests, as I said, with MPs calling for it to not go ahead, and for teams not to basically go there either. But again, it's going ahead just like last year. And last year Sebastian Vettel won from pole after doing a 1:32.432, I can see, in qualifying, and he won ahead of Kimi Räikkönen, just ahead of Kimi Räikkönen, with Roman Grosjean in third, getting his first podium in F1, and the first French driver to get a podium since John Alesi in 1998 at the Belgian Grand Prix, I believe. So had been a long wait for French drivers there to get a podium, and Sebastian Vettel also did the fastest lap in that race with a 1:36.3. So about the track, and as I said, everyone have been there since 2004, and there's been quite a few different winners there. Michael Schumacher in 2004 for Ferrari won the first one, then Fernando Alonso won the next two races for Renault, then Felipe Massa won the next two races for Ferrari, Jenson Button won for Brawn in 2009, Fernando Alonso won for Ferrari at the endurance circuit that was used in 2010, and of course Vettel won last year. So it's been a good track for the Ferrari drivers in the past. Fernando Alonso got the most wins here with 3, Felipe Massa 2, and Ferrari got the most wins for the constructors here with 4, and Renault are next with 2. And as I said, this track's mostly been held on the 15-corner circuit, and it of course was designed by Hermann Tilke, and it was the first Grand Prix to be held in the Middle East, and it used the endurance circuit in 2010, celebrating Formula One's Diamond Jubilee, or 60 years strong it had been going, and that was the 24-turn circuit, I believe, that was used, and no one liked it, and it hasn't been used since. So it reverted back to the 15-corner circuit in 2012, but this circuit, 5.4 kilometers long, 3.3 miles long, with a race distance of 508.4 kilometers, or 191.6 miles, or 308.4 kilometers. I was thinking that was farther long, or 191.6 miles. So it's a track that's kind of characteristic by being built in the desert and with large runoff areas, which have been criticised in the past. But of course, it means that Bahrain's one of the safest tracks in the world, because if you go off, you're just driving on tarmac and you're not going to hit anything for miles. And they celebrate on the podium with not alcohol, not champagne like normal, even though alcohol beverages are legal in Bahrain. They use a non-alcoholic rose water drink known as WAD. That's what it says here. I'm not sure that's how you say it though. But yeah, that's a bit about the track. And this weekend it's going to be supported by the GP2 series with their second round of the championship, and it's been supported by GP2 Asia in the past, and Formula BMW and Formula BMW Asia even, so, and the Porsche Super Cup as well. So that's a bit about the track, and it's a track that I don't mind, even though I know it's been criticised hugely, and of course the Grand Prix has been criticised hugely in the past few years, and will no doubt be criticised in the future few years as well. But that's some track facts. Let's talk about some predictions now. So some predictions for the Bahrain Grand Prix, this track which normally comes third or fourth on the calendar, and actually held the opener in 2006 because of the Commonwealth Games in Australia, and the opener in 2010. But predictions for this race are kind of hard again. It's kind of hard to see who will be top, but I think we know who will be up there, and that will be Lotus, Red Bull and Ferrari, with maybe Mercedes joining in on the fun as well. It depends on I think we will really find out if they have got over these rear tyres, overheating in the race with this race, because it's always very hot and the track temperature is always very hot as well. And I think Mercedes will just be out of there, just like in Australia, or maybe a top 5 for Lewis Hamilton. But Rosberg, he normally goes well here as well, because did his fastest lap in his first F1 race here ever in 2006 on his debut for Williams. So has a nice history of the track here. But yeah, I think maybe a top 5 for Mercedes. But it looks mainly it's going to be a fight between maybe Lotus and Red Bull again, just like last year. And again, it might be Vettel and Raikkonen fighting at the front, but never rule out Ferrari, most successful constructor here, and they got the two most successful drivers around here in Alonso and Massa as well, so don't rule out Ferrari. But I think my podium will be maybe Raikkonen, and in first I think Raikkonen will just snick first from Alonso, I think, and then Vettel in third with Massa fourth, and as I said, Hamilton in fifth. So I think that will be the order at the front. Maybe look for McLaren, so they do maybe a bit well here. Again, getting some solid points from Button, and maybe Perez can join in on the fun as well. And I think Grosjean might do a bit better, maybe a sixth place here for him. So Force India, again, they might get some points, so they normally do quite well here. I remember Sutil getting some points here in 2010, and it seems like Force India are really fighting with McLaren. It seems that's going to probably be the best fight at the moment, really, in the constructors. And I think maybe Force India will get some points with Sutil. I'm not sure about the rest there, but I think Sutil might get some points as long as he looks at his mirrors this race and doesn't force his teammate off, or gets hit by a speeding Gutierrez. And talking about Sauber, I think their tyre issues might come through again here, and I don't think they will score any points actually. I think Hulkenberg might just slip out of it, or might sneak a ninth, because I think Toro Rosso will be fighting for points again. So it could be just a fight between Toro Rosso and Sauber for the few remaining points. Williams will be nowhere again, it seems, and of course Marussia and Caterham, you never know, they might get closer to Williams. It depends, I guess, on what happens to Williams, but again, they'll be fighting with the established teams in the first few laps for maybe half a race, and then they might drop behind them. So, but I think Marussia will again be better than Caterham. As I said, Caterham, overachieving in China, they said in my race review. So yeah, I think Marussia would just be better than Caterham, and again look for Bianchi to be the best newer team driver. So yeah, that's the predictions for this weekend, and that is the preview of the Bahrain Grand Prix, which maybe shouldn't go ahead, but we'll do anyway. And I might be watching because it's actually at a normal time now. They're actually for us in the UK anyway, it's actually at midday at lunchtime, so I'll probably be watching it live for once. And so I hope you enjoyed this preview. Let me know your predictions in the comments below, of course, and tell me how wrong I'm going to be. So for watching. So till next time, cheerio. So yeah, the post roll, and I did talk about GP2 being in Bahrain this weekend, supporting the F1 Bahrain for their second round of the season after a very interesting round in Malaysia that opened the season. And the big news between Malaysia and now has been that Robin Frings, the World Series by Renault Formula Renault 3.5 title winner last season, he's got to drive with Hilmer Motorsports, replacing Connor Daly in that seat. Connor Daly only had like a one race deal, I believe, and only found out about that deal on like the Monday before the race weekend, and he got 7th place in the sprint race. He did a very good job with the team, but his main focus this season is he's got an Indy 500 drive with AJ Foyt in IndyCar, and to do a full GP3 season, and he might do another IndyCar race in Houston later in the year. But Robin Frings is now in that seat, and I think it's only a one race deal, I believe, but it might be open up for the rest of the season depending on if you can raise the budget. And Robin Frings did test pre-season with a number of teams, and apparently turned down a couple of deals as well with teams, and that kind of upset a bit Sauber. And so they've now kind of got the money or budget for one race and maybe for the rest of the season. And it's going to be interesting to see how he does. As I said, Connor Daly got 7th in the sprint race. He scored some points when he didn't even know he had the drive the week before. So it'll be interesting to see how Fring does in that seat. So let's talk about the main contenders for this weekend. Of course, there's going to be James Collado of Art. He did make a big mistake in the sprint race hitting one racing engineering car and then taking out the other when he was kind of out of control. And so he does have a grid penalty for this weekend, if I remember correctly. But I think he will be again fighting there for the podiums, fighting for the win. And I believe this weekend that we will see the drivers who were here last year in the 2 rounds in Bahrain. This year it's only 1 round supporting the F1, so not going to have a standalone round in Bahrain. It's just going to be 1 round that's supporting F1 like it, and then they're going back to Europe. And so I think Collado will be fighting there as one of those guys who raced in the 2 rounds last season. He's got some experience of this circuit. Unlike his teammate, I believe, Daniel Apter, again, I think he might struggle a bit like he did in Malaysia, and I think he might struggle to get any points again, Daniel Apter. But again, I think Collado again fighting right up there. And maybe Stefano Coletti, sprint race winner in Malaysia, but he does kind of wear out his tyres. He has been known to do that in the past, and I think this track is again is going to emphasise that characteristic of his driving. So I'm not sure if he's going to be challenging for the win or maybe even the top 5, but around 6th maybe, and you get some solid points again in the sprint race. But who do I think will challenge Collado then? Well, I think Fabio Lima of Racing Engineering, and he won, of course, the feature race in Malaysia, and I think he's leading the standings, and he's been very, very strong. Actually, no, it might be Coletti's leading the standings. No, okay, I'll figure it out. But yeah, I think Lima will be right up there. I think he might win the feature race. Again, it looks like he's on top of the car, he looks like he's on top of the tyres, and he might show some consistency this year instead of showing like little flashes of brilliance and then kind of being anonymous for most of the season. It is his 4th season in GP2, so it's about that time of your junior career, like Lewis Razzia last season, where you should be challenging for the title, or Davide Falsecchi as well. I think it was actually his 5th season in GP2 Falsecchi before he finally won the title. So yeah, it's about that time where he should be challenging for the title and be consistent, and it looks like he is going to be that driver this season, and he's going to be very strong. And I think he had strong pace around here last season as well in one of the weekends, but I think he will, challenge for the win here and maybe get it. And Marcus Ericsson in the Dams car, where we were talking about Falsecchi, who won the title with Dams last year, and then of course Grosjean won it with Dams in 2011. So there's been lots of eyes looking at Ericsson. This is a big move he did this year to go to Dams, and he was kind of the pre-season favourite as well this year. Lots of eyes on him, expecting him to do well. Didn't deliver in Malaysia at all, and he kind of has to deliver here, I think, to maybe convince people. And I'm not sure if Ericsson will. I'm not sure if Ericsson will deliver this season. I've been a bit unsure of him since he's been in GP2. He's shown flashes again, but unlike Lima, he kind of grows. He looks like he's growing a bit. Doesn't look like Ericsson has, and I really do worry about Ericsson's future. And again, this is a guy who looked very strong in Formula BMW, if I remember correctly, before he jumped to GP2. Kind of made a bit of a leap, came in here very long, and it doesn't look like he's kind of worked out GP2 again. So I'm not sure about him in GP2X, and I'm not sure about him this weekend. Might get some good points. As I said, the drivers who've got experience around here might get some good results, but I'm not sure if he'll be challenging for the win or even for a podium this weekend. Also look out for Philippe Nazir in the Carlin car. He was at Dams last year, and he looks like he's matured a bit, learnt a bit about the tyres again this year, and it's like he's got a hang on them. And so I expect him to do very well this year, and he of course got podiums in Malaysia, and I expect him to get a podium here maybe and fight with Collado and of course Lima at the front, just like they did in the feature race in Malaysia. So yeah, I expect him to be right up there, and not be fighting from the back like he did for Downs many times last year. I expect him to be right there at the front. And the final guys to mention, Joran Palmer and Sam Bird. Palmer showed great pace in Malaysia, fighting through the field in both races. Unfortunately, he wasn't really rewarded for that, but I think he will show his great pace this weekend. And Sam Bird at Russian time, of course, brought out Ice Sport, who were like long time performers in GP2, won the title in 2007 with Timo Glock, and unfortunately they didn't have the budget for the full season and they kind of backed out and their slot got bought by Russian Time. But Sandberg, very experienced driver, was in World Series by Renault, came third last year, and he's won before in GP2 with Art, famously at Monza, and so I think he will do very well this season with all this experience. Of course, he's a Mercedes AMG Reserve or AMG Mercedes Reserve driver as well, and so yeah, I expect him to do very well this weekend. Of course, for the season as well, very experienced driver, and I think he'll be right over for the top 5, maybe even for a podium as well. He's a bit unlucky in Malaysia, especially in the sprint race as well, but I expect him to be very strong this weekend. So yeah, that's a bit about Malaysia, about GP2 in Bahrain. Oh, thank God it's ended because I've lost my mind. So yeah, bye.